Hi guys, Claudia Boleyn here. I wasn't intending to make a video today, honestly, but there's been some news. So it's been ruled by the High Court this morning that Prince Harry cannot pay for his own police security while he's in the UK. So I don't really want to get into this in a legal sense because there are people who are much more intelligent on that than me. I suppose I'm interested and disturbed by the reaction that I'm seeing online this morning. I understand, legally speaking, of course, that this is a complex case because it can't be seen that if you're wealthy, you can buy police protection. I understand that. But this is also an individual that was born against his will into a system which made his life news, right? He's been stalked since he was a child. So that was against his will. And I would certainly argue that we have a responsibility to him as, basically growing him up as a mascot, not to mention how he's been treated and is treated by the tabloids. We have a responsibility to keep him safe, essentially. So however that comes about, I think it's really imperative that he and his family are safe. And to be honest, that all the royals are safe. I mean, I'm against the idea of having a royal family. I think it's a horrific institution and it hurts everybody involved. But also, especially the people that are born into it, they don't really get a choice. I wouldn't feel comfortable, say it was William. This is someone who all his life has had the media following him. If he decided tomorrow that he didn't want to be a working royal anymore, I would want him to have protection because I think he's owed protection because his life would be in danger simply by existing. It's a very complex and horrible situation. But what I wanted to talk about here is the reaction, because what we're seeing, first of all, we're seeing a sort of gaslighting here where a lot of people are using the idea that, he's just trying to be an elite, he's trying to buy his protection. Now that argument makes sense as an argument away from Harry. Of course, we don't want rich people being able to pay for police security. Obviously his case is very different, but what they're not mentioning and what they're not talking about here is that Harry's been declined the chance to pay for his own security. He's been pretty clear on this, that all he cares about is security for his family. He doesn't care how that happens, he just wants them to be safe. I've seen people saying, oh, he wants to take stuff from the taxpayer, when the whole point is that he has tried to pay for his security and it's been denied. It's just not engaging with the facts. And that just really angers me because these are people who know full well what's going on. It's fine to have a different perspective on it. But why would you misrepresent the facts if you know the facts? Obviously I know why they're doing it. They're trying to present him as this out of touch elite because obviously the reason why a lot of people support him in this, people who aren't monarchists even, like myself, is because we can see that what he's gone through is abuse, that his family has faced extreme racism. We know they have faced actual threats to their safety from far-right individuals who call him a race traitor, and yet they're now trying to reframe that as, oh, he wants special treatment. This is not about special treatment. This is a man who quite genuinely knows that his family are at risk of people killing them, essentially. There are people out there that want to kill them. The tabloids drum up this constant hatred of the family, dehumanization of the family. We're even starting to see that happening with the children, and that leads to real harm. And again, I'm not an expert on this topic, but I think that I read that, like, for example, Liz Truss, who was Prime Minister for a very short amount of time, thankfully. Well, I say thankfully, but did it get better when she went? No. She's entitled to police protection for life because it's not really about privilege and status there, right? It's about someone who's a public figure who people are going to feel strongly about, and it's making sure that they are not physically harmed. Now, Harry, again, was a child born into this system. So it's just sick to me, especially with this ongoing tabloid hate campaign. People are cutting out the fact that every day, every week, the papers, the magazines, they're spreading this stuff about Harry. They're making people despise him. They want to spin it as if, oh, everything was fine here, then he had a tantrum, then he left, and now he wants more attention. That is not the case. There was real danger, and people who don't believe that need to argue with our own security services because they've said that there were and are threats. And I feel like anyone with a brain can see that a hate campaign, this sort of dehumanization, is only going to lead to a tragedy because it takes one person, right? One person to act on that stuff and, something horrific will happen. So I'm screenshotting as I go because I'm going to put some of these in the video, but I will blot out the name, etc., because although they're doing awful things, I don't want them to get piled on. Okay, so this person talks about a stunt car chase that it didn't sway the judge. He cannot appeal again. The Met Police are not guns for hire for spoilt brats. They've also hashtagged this with dumb prince and stupid wife. This is a family, again, like, I wish people would use their empathy. If it was your family and you found out that there were actual people who wanted to physically harm your family because they hated you so much, would you not, like, where's the empathy? Those are children. Like, these are human beings. Harry and Meghan are finished. You know, they're enjoying this like it's a pantomime, like it's not real people's lives. And that's how successful the dehumanization of Harry and Meghan has been. And it will probably be for their kids as well. We've already started to see that. That's not even to, I haven't made a video about this yet, but that video that was circulating where 4 journalists, royal experts, including Emily Andrews, who we talk about on this channel, were actually making a joke about Archie being dropped off the balcony. And, you know, I'm not saying that, you know, everything people say is literal, but the very fact that they weren't thinking, that is a child, why are we grown adults laughing about something bad happening to a little child? You know, it was like he was now a character in the pantomime. We've got someone here saying, this is absolutely the right ruling, who does he think he is? So again, his desperate bid to say, look, I do not care, like, okay, if I don't mind if it's taxpayer, okay, but if you don't want that, I'll pay for it. Bear in mind, Meghan and Harry are the people that paid back the money that they took from the taxpayer, right? Because as working royals, I hate this anyway, but, you know, taxpayer money goes towards that. When they stepped away, they paid back that money. They are not the members of this family that are trying to take money. They want protection and security for their children. You know, who does he think he is? And they've got no empathy. No empathy at all. And even, you know, I can understand, even, you know, legally speaking, I understand the difficulties in terms of, you know, can someone who's rich and famous pay for their own protection, etc. I understand that. But they're not coming at it like from that kind of perspective, right? They're coming at it as if, good, that's a humiliation. And the truth is, they want him hurt. They want him scared. That's part of the power and control. They want that family to be fearful. That is the scary truth about this. They want that family to be ground down and they want them to be fearful. That's what it is. They don't want them to feel safe. They've been so dehumanized. They've been made into these traitorous figures that we're all supposed to hate here. That people want terrible things to happen to them. And it's got so bad that if something bad did happen to them, people would turn around and say, well, that's what they deserved. That's what they get. That is how far the dehumanization has gone. I mean, even the car situation, you know, the near catastrophic incident, is being reframed. They were followed for 2 hours. Their words got reframed, and people saying things like, oh, I thought they loved the attention, and it's just abuse logic, right? It's victim blaming. I've had people argue with me even on this channel that, oh, if Harry finds it so traumatizing to be in front of photographers, then maybe he shouldn't go to premieres. And even in that, you know, the way that people have moved the goalposts on this, and this campaign against Meghan and Harry and their family to dehumanize them so strongly, is that people who see themselves as neutral are now engaging in that sort of victim-blaming rhetoric, because it's like they can't see that actually the problem is grown weird adults stalking other people for 2 hours. And they're fixated on, oh, but they showed their faces and how, you know, fast was the car chase. And also, you know, I said this in another video, I went through it all. Harry and Meghan did not say it was a high-speed car chase that went on for 2 hours. They said that they were pursued for 2 hours. That's wrong. It's stalking, you know, and people are so... They are so trained to hate Harry and Meghan that rather than being able to see what's right in front of us all, which is that was not acceptable, that nobody should be treated the way they were treated in that instance, they went to blaming them, right? That's how successful this campaign has been. People are celebrating like it's a British victory. It is a victory that this family are now unsafe. You know, I'm seeing people posting veiled things that we have here, like they're putting the result of this, and then, you know, people are posting emojis like the clapping emoji and then the Union Jack, as if, yay, Britain prevails, this mixed race family that are being hounded and abused so much are still not safe. I feel awful to say this, and I know I've already said this in this video, but if something happened to that family, I honestly don't think people care. I do not think people care. I think it's got to that point, and the dehumanization process, you know, as we've been following it, has been so fast. You know, we see different instances with marginalised groups in history, you know, people who are smeared, and how that process develops and how long it takes. But this is like a hyper speed version of that. People no longer see their pain. Like, Harry and Meghan are not people to them. Therefore, anything can happen to those people because to them they're not real, they're not on the same level. Okay, someone says here, so Harry, will you and your wife write an apology? You know, like you both demand apologies from the people you said lied, particularly the Queen's advisors. Surely they deserve an apology from you. Did Harry try to keep police protection battle under wraps? But why do they need an apology? Why? This is how deranged the coverage has become. They don't owe an apology. Harry has made a request. Right? Everything they do is treated like they are evil. And I'm seeing this as well, this weird video people are putting up. So privileged, so rich, and yet still wants the taxpayer to fund his protection. Those same taxpayers are struggling to put food on the table, and these so-called royals wonder why people have turned against them. This is so frustrating, and as a leftist, I'll say this is frustrating. That is such a that is not understanding the issue at play here. That is not what's on the line here. This is about physical safety, and I honestly feel like people are missing the fact that the way that Harry and Meghan are being smeared is literally the same playbook as how they smeared Jeremy Corbyn. Like, it's not helpful. It frustrates me, you know, the way it's being. This is how successful the brainwashing is, right? That when it gets to people who are left-wing, because a lot of us, obviously, we don't care for the monarchy, you know, we don't believe in the monarchy, we believe in democracy, and we think the monarchy is undemocratic. But, you know, the way it's being sold to them by these smearers is, oh, he wants to spend taxpayer money. That is not the case. He has said he is happy to pay. He is happy to pay. And I'll be completely honest, I think that he is owed protection. I'll be completely honest about that. There are so many things that taxpayer money should not be being spent on, which it is. But children that are born in as mascots and are now in fear for their lives for existing because the tabloids are not regulated and they are consistently drumming up violent hatred towards people, I think that is an instance where someone is entitled to security. You know, someone has actually edited a picture of Harry and Meghan sobbing and crying together on the floor. Ain't no hoax high enough to change the fact that you will not get taxpayer funded security. And then some smiling emojis. And doesn't that just show you the lack of empathy? Right, he's not asking, he's saying he'll pay. He is saying he will pay. I feel like I'm going crazy. The laughing that you're not going to get security, and the fact it's all a hoax. It's all a hoax. Really? They think it's a hoax. So even if this was a hoax, what would it be for? What benefit would it be to him? Right? How does that benefit him as a hoax? In an epic smackdown, court denies Prince Harry's bid for judicial review of a UK Home Office decision to strip Harry for taxpayer-funded security. Hashtag Prince Harry is a loser. They want something bad to happen to that family so badly. Like, they really want it to happen in an epic smackdown. Like, that's what they think of him, right? Disobedient, against Britain, you've turned against us, you've joined the enemy, you are with a woman of colour now, and we now hate you and you deserve what you get, and in fact, like, we want you destroyed. Like, we want to see you get absolutely humiliated and destroyed. And this is a person that was born into this situation. He didn't get a choice. He was born into this hell, and he is fighting to try and protect his family now. And in the meantime, he is being mocked and he's being smeared. And look, it's not a coincidence that he is taking the tabloids to court for phone hacking, right? And illegal information gathering. Because these same tabloids, this is what they've been doing the whole time. This is the threat, and this is why it's rare that someone like Harry goes up against these people. Because they have enabled this situation all their years of coverage. Every week, putting this evil out into the world, making people hate him and hate Meghan and see him as less human, has made it so that now all this stuff is happening. We have got people in the general public who have been completely brainwashed, completely desensitized, who see him as a pantomime villain and Meghan as some sort of pantomime like witch character, who are now aiding and abetting these powerful people and these tabloids, right, in the abuse of Harry. And it's all part of the system, right? He is being... Essentially, it's a threat because he is a whistleblower. He is coming forward, he's an abuse victim, he is calling things out. So this is on a massive scale. This is saying, we're going to turn everyone against you. So in an abuse situation that's smaller, you might have an abuser doing something where they might have power and they might say, look, if you say anything about what happened, then I am going to make sure everybody here thinks you're crazy and doesn't believe you because I can do that. That happens in workplaces, for example. If someone powerful is harassing people, you know, they might say, I've got the power here and I will turn people on you. So are you sure you want to take this forward? Because I've got the power. That is what the tabloids are doing, and they are using the British public, who also have no excuse. You know, they've got no excuse whatsoever. There is inbuilt racism and patriotic, like, nationalism and stuff, and there's so many things at play here, but there's no excuse. They are now using that because this is what people have been made to think of Harry, and this is all part of the abuse process. Like, make no mistake about that. The same people who are genuinely making their money, the people in charge of the tabloids, right? The Met Police, right? The Home Office, all these dodgy people, right, at the top, who genuinely are at the top here. And I'm not saying that Harry isn't financially privileged, because he is. He really is. But the people with power, the power structures are being turned on Harry, right? That shows you in itself that Harry is not this... He is being punished because he was meant to be one of them. He was meant to be part of that elite power structure. And he has realised, and he is now stepping away from it. So now they are twisting it to make him the ultimate, like, look, this is the elite. This is that person that's taking all your money and everything. And it's like, there's no excuse for the public, because they should be able to see what's going on. They should be able to see that this is a threat to whistleblowers. This is a threat to people who come forward. They should be able to see that really what's happening here is he's being punished because he was meant to go along with it and be one of those elite. That is why they don't get at William. That is why they are with Charles right now. That is why billionaires exist and have so much sway in our government and in our country. They have successfully made one of their own who has broken away into the new target. And this is what the tabloids do. They're so evil, right? They are so sick, because the anger that people should be feeling at the tabloids, at corrupt institutions, those institutions like the tabloids have so much power and influence that they then turn those people with valid anger, because people are in a cost of living crisis. Things are not just here, you know, people are miserable. There is valid anger in people, and they turn that over time. They turn that onto a new target. So they turn it onto refugees or onto trans people, and they'll turn it onto people like Harry, and they'll turn it onto Jeremy Corbyn. They will actually turn it onto the people that are trying to make a difference and people who need help. I really hope that we can appreciate that pattern of what they're doing and how that ties into abuse dynamics. Harry is meant to feel scared. People who come forward are meant to feel afraid. They did the same thing to Jeremy Corbyn. Jeremy Corbyn was the leader of the opposition. He wanted to change things for the better here in this country, and that was a threat, because he was supposed to be one of those prime ministers, if he became prime minister, who'd kind of let them get away with some things and not change anything too radically, and, you know, don't worry, the people at the top will still be all right. But he wouldn't. He wouldn't do that. So they destroyed him. They had to destroy him. They are doing the same thing to Harry, because it's actually incredibly damaging. In some ways more damaging that somebody who has the opportunity to take that option says they won't. Jeremy Corbyn and Harry have said no. I know some leftists are really going to come for me for comparing them. I'm not saying they're similar in politics, but in terms of the abuse dynamics and the process which is happening around them, they are massive threats, because they show up everyone in power, right? They show that there's a different way. And suddenly those people in power get scared because there's no longer an excuse, right? The elites are meant to remain in their box. They're not meant to expose the system. Harry's crime is exposing the tabloid media. That is his crime, and so the tabloids have made it so people don't now see his family as human. That is the extent of their abuse, and that's hard to prove. As with a lot of abuse, it's hard to prove in court. How do you prove that over a long period of time you've been dehumanized to the point that people laugh at your suffering, to the point that if the news came that you are actually in grave, if something terrible had happened to that family, to the extent that people would not care? And in fact, they might actually be glad. You know, and to people saying, I wish they were right, you know, oh, they'll feel sorry if something happens to Harry and Meghan. I actually think that they won't. With Jeremy Corbyn, it got to a point where he was so monstered in the press that actual members of the armed forces had been doing firing practice at images of Jeremy Corbyn. The violent hatred. And the sad thing is that actual anger in people is valid. It's just being aimed in all the wrong places. We have to get wise to this. It's like when they turn us on refugees, for example, and we sit there, you know, a lot of people will see refugees and they'll say, well, they're coming here and they're being helped, but what about me? I'm struggling. I don't have enough money. Look at the prices of things going up, and I work really hard. And they're right in terms of the fact that they deserve better. The system is so broken. But in that state of fear and wanting that security, you know, that thing that's so human, people get turned on other vulnerable people or people that are trying to help them. right? That's what they did to Jeremy Corbyn. They tried to turn people against somebody that was going to help them. They tried to turn vulnerable people against other vulnerable communities so that they do not join together and topple the system. Now, you know the extent to which they're smearing Harry and Meghan. The only hopeful thing here, that means they're scared. Right, what they are doing to Harry right now means they are frightened. It's just so sad that this boy has lived this life of trauma and abuse against his will, and he is now fighting the very people that he was once taught came before anything else, the people that he had to perform to when his own mother died. And he took that to heart, and he thinks, and I believe he's right, that he is doing this for the British people when he reforms the tabloids. You know, I think that's absolutely right. I think he's correct. But the pain of him seeing that those very people that he is doing this for, right, to protect people, to think that the tabloids are wrong, they are making the world worse. As part of that battle, the awful thing that's happening is those very people that he cares about are being turned on him and made to hate him. And I'm really not comparing Harry to Jesus. Like, that's going to sound weird, but you know, in the Bible, I'm a Christian personally, you know, when Jesus says, you know, they know not what they do. It's just a familiar power dynamic. And I think a lot of people know that story, the story of Jesus. But when somebody comes to help, when somebody tries to expose power structures, right, people will be turned by corruption, by the corrupt and by the powerful. The absolute fear is the people uniting as one around something good. So they will have to turn those people on each other. They have to convince people that the person who is helping them, who has more in common with them than anyone else at the top, they will convince them that that's the enemy. And that's what we're up against here. Anyway, thank you for watching this. I've got to head off, but I love you loads. And I'll see you really soon. All right, love you. Bye.